With our space exploration, we always seem to be looking forward. Now let's look back. A 4.6-billion-year-old meteorite may be the key to helping scientists better understand our celestial neighbors and the creation of Earth itself. Joining us to tell us a bit more about this very ancient, probably the most ancient artifact I've ever heard of, is science engagement astronomer from the observatory, Dr. Daniel Kahnemer. Dan, always awesome to connect with you. Hope you're doing really well. What is a meteorite exactly?
A meteorite is basically some piece of rock which has come in from space. So a meteor is a shooting star, as most of us have seen, or hopefully. It burns up in the atmosphere. A meteorite is when that piece of space rock reaches the ground, and the thing remaining is the meteorite. I've got my daughter's little meteorite here, actually.
Oh, wow.
So we have our own little meteorite at home. Yeah.
So besides, obviously, for its age, what has got scientists so fascinated and excited about this particular meteorite?
So I think the exciting thing about this meteorite is the way it would have formed. So the rock itself appears to have formed on the crust of a planet. So on planet Earth, we have these tectonic plates. They move together, and then they have these zones where they dunk under the surface, and they create volcanoes. And there's a lot of surface activity going on in the crust of the Earth. Now, this rock has come from something like that, but obviously before the Earth was formed, which means that there must have been some protoplanet with a crust that existed in our solar system before the formation of Earth and the other planets.
Wow. And that obviously presumably then got smashed, or however that ended up, being partitioned off to arrive on our planet. That is amazing. Where was this meteorite found, and what likely is the origin? How much have they been able to glean about where it should have come from?
This was found in the Sahara. It's a fairly big meteorite to be found. It obviously came from our solar system in space. The origins, as I said, would have been one of these protoplanets, which then would have been ripped apart. Most of the rocks from that protoplanet would have been absorbed into Earth or one of the other planets, and then transformed, heated, molten, and you would have lost all of that information about the original formation. Whereas this one is still kind of unique and in its original form, which is kind of what makes it so exciting.
And so rare, I would imagine. So does that mean that it would have been kind of, flying around in space longer? What sort of timeline are we thinking? When did it arrive on our planet?
I think it arrived quite recently, particularly if it landed. It's still available on the surface. Wow. So I think it was found on the surface of the Earth. So I would say it arrived recently in the past few years. But it would have been flying around the solar system for 4.5 billion years. Wow. So this little rock's been around the sun many, many times before it finally crashed into Earth.
The stories he could tell. I know I always have to personify everything that you send to space or that comes from space, but it's the way my brain understands it. So how can this then help us better understand how our Earth, our planets, and then I suppose our surrounding planets, those in our solar system, were actually formed?
Yeah, so I think that the understanding of how our solar system formed is not quite clear. Why we've got 8 planets, why there's gas planets further out and rocky planets further in. All of these sort of factors, and as we discover more and more planets around other stars, the process by which planets form is kind of vital to our understanding about solar systems and habitable planets. So learning about a planet that existed before the planets we know is quite interesting, and the materials in it, they're much more primitive. They came from earlier in the universe, a time when we hadn't gone through so much sort of star formation, and there weren't the same elements in the universe 4.5 billion years ago. So we can really get a snapshot of how the world was, or not the world, how the solar system was.
We say the world, in inverted commas there. Now, I get that. So how often do we find meteorites like this? Are we likely to find others? I mean, how rare is this discovery?
So we find meteorites quite regularly, and there are sort of better places to find them than others. But something like this is is very rare. I think it's highly unlikely we'd find another one this old, mainly because for something to have gone around the sun so many times, been around for 4.5 billion years without interacting with one of the planets, is very, very rare indeed. It got very lucky for a long time.
I feel very lucky that it landed on our planet, that it chose us, and about what we are able to learn about it. I love the fact that that's a snapshot into this existence. We'll call it life, you know, billions of years ago. Absolutely amazing. Dude, thank you so much. That was a really, really exciting discovery. So nice to look back in time as opposed to the exciting future that we kind of presented with now. Thanks so much, man.
My pleasure.
Exciting times indeed. The more advanced we get with technology, the better we're able to look into our past now to see where and how it all began. Amazing.